Oh, good evening, and welcome to the unsupervised breakdown. No adult supervision here whatsoever tonight. Our good friend Tara Sutmeyer is taking a couple of very well-deserved days off. She has not missed a show since, I think, August of last year, and she has taken a couple of days off. And so they've left me with the keys to the Ferrari, and we're going to race around for a little while tonight and talk about bad people and bad things. Drink some wine, read some tweets, talk some shit, spread some rumors, have a little fun. This will be a little looser and less organized than normal, because I'm a little looser and less organized than, well, everybody. But I'm so glad you all joined us this evening. Thank you so much. This is the breakdown brought to you by the Lincoln Project. And we're going to get started tonight by welcoming our executive director and my good friend Fred Wellman onto the deck of the pirate ship this evening. We're back in piratical mode, and boy, and folks, we're gonna get started talking about some of the news here in a few minutes. But I want to emphasize that we're going to expect the other Florida man later tonight. So stay tuned and tell your friends, including some really juicy Florida-based gossip that I've been sucking down like an industrial vacuum cleaner the last 24 hours.
There's something going on? I hadn't heard anything. That's weird. I'm pretty excited.
I put the whole picture together. But
I can't believe Tara. I can't believe Tara left us alone, Eric. I can't. I mean, I know she was nervous.
So, folks, before we get to that, I want to talk about a couple serious things briefly. And I want to start with the aftermath of Georgia and the ongoing battle, because Georgia was only a handful of the 250 plus discriminatory bills that are out there right now in legislatures across the country and in legislative fights across the country that are going on. And one thing you're seeing, and I got to call it out, one thing you're seeing in places like Georgia right now is these CEOs, these corporate boards, and these spokespersons from major companies have suddenly, like discovering gambling in Casablanca, realized that these bills are bad and discriminatory. And they are going, oh, woe is me. We had no idea. We've never learned to read. No one told us these bills were an affront to the sacred right to vote in this country. Well, people did tell them. You told them. We told them. But when you read Bank of America, we must continue to right the wrongs of our past and stand united with our advocacy for equal voting rights for all. Okay, well, here's how you prove that. Okay, here's how you prove that. There are a bunch of other state legislatures right now considering bills as bad or worse than Georgia. So if you're Bank of America or Coca-Cola or Delta or anybody else out there, there's a very simple way to do this. It's super easy. You have your government affairs division, tell your lobbyists in the states, and you say it publicly, that if any member of these bodies votes to reduce the right to vote, engages in trying to pass these discriminatory bills that disproportionately affect African Americans, that your company will never give them another goddamn dime. It's really simple. You could do it very easily. You could win a huge, huge, huge lift out of this. It's basic accountability. It's telling people, if you do X that affronts our values, we will not subsidize you. Okay? If you do X that is a direct compromise of our customers and our stakeholders and our workers' rights, we will not support you. And there's an old rule in politics. I'm going to get in trouble saying it this way, but it's an old rule. The phraseology may be politically incorrect, but it comes from the past. So just ride with me tonight, folks. If you're a lobbyist, you're either a pimp or a hooker. You either set the terms, okay, or you take it. It's an ugly, ugly analogy. I will grant you, it's not a pretty analogy. It's not a politically correct analogy. But right now, the lobbyists working for these companies who are paid absurd amounts of money. I mean, I am in the wrong damn business, okay? They have the ability to go to these members and say, listen, the corporate board at Delta has sent the order down. So you either, drop this shit, or we can't help you ever again, and we can't help your caucus ever again. They have power. Politics is transactional. Money talks, bullshit walks. It is important for these companies to take a stand. It's important for them to stand up and say, we're not doing this. So let me bring Fred into the conversation. Fred, I was thinking about this today when we were talking about an ad we're going to show a little later. That we're seeing the same. Aren't we seeing the same thing starting to play out in Michigan, where all the companies are like, oh, what voting bills? Right. Voting bills? What are those? I mean, aren't we seeing the same?
It's all smoke and mirrors. Yeah, it's the same machine. And the thing is that today, the new numbers came out, Rick. It's not just, it was 253 before. That was February 19th. As of today, there's 361 of these bills now in 47 states. And 25 states have bills moving through at some point in their legislature. So I almost feel like we're doing a disservice focusing on just Georgia, because now the larger picture it's flowing everywhere. And so companies, someone asked us today, it's like, well, is it too late to beat up, say, Coke or Delta for letting this go? Well, I think the message is clear to folks like Ford or AT&T or other companies. Texas, we've got Michigan. You said Michigan's fielding a bunch of laws, and that's going to be an interesting fight because the nature of the logistics there of getting these bills passed. I absolutely believe that companies have to stand up. There's just no choice. And I think Home Depot has 20,000 associates that live in Atlanta. Okay, that's a lot of citizens, in Atlanta. So I tell you, it is incredibly frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating to see them waiting. But it's what's interesting too is if you saw, there was a Fox News event today. The Fox News reporter talking to the press secretary, Jem Psaki, and they keep hammering. But look, there's this part of the law where they extended, the vote, weekend voting. Weekend voting is better. And she said, yeah, but they also restricted ballot boxes. They also restricted mobile voting. They also restricted the ability to get absentee ballots. Yeah, but mandatory now for weekend voting. And you want to scream at the computer because there's 98. That's a 98-page bill. And it's ridiculous. They focus on one bill. And that's what the corporations are doing, Rick. You nail it. They pick the part. Well, this isn't too bad a bill because there's this good part. But it's this huge multi-headed hydra, right? It's not just one part of the bill. It is a multi-piece. My favorite one I always talk about a lot, and probably people have seen us talk before. I talk about voter ID. It's ID. Drivers. What's the problem with having a driver's license? And if you caught Raffensperger, well, not Raffensperger, the other character there in Georgia said, well, 97% of voters are in Georgia, or 97% of Georgians have driver's licenses. What's the big deal? 97%. Well, some estimates, 250,000 people. That's 250,000 people who don't have driver's licenses. Say half of those don't have it. Okay, well, Biden only won Georgia by 11,500 votes. You just removed 250,000 people. Okay, and that's the play. The play is to make every possible obstacle to peel off a dozen here, a dozen there, a dozen there. It's something you've got 10,000, 11,000 who go to vote and can't, and then you lose an election.
It's to increase the friction that ordinary people will experience when they try to go out and vote. And that is something that Fred, part of it is just so small and shitty and so trifling. And I did have one guy today, a very smart election lawyer, said to me today, he said, there's an upside to all these bills. They're all coming out of the same factory. We know who it is. Hans von Spakowski or whatever his name is, and a bunch of other guys are writing these bills, okay? And so he said, the good part about this is they're also constitutionally flawed. Once one goes, a lot of the other ones collapse. But we can't count on to work in time for the 2022 election. We've got to move much swiftly before that. So, right now we're starting to bring Michigan into people's radar. Of course, one of our senior advisors, Jeff Timmer, is a Michigan minority chairman up there. We'll have him on the show to talk about Michigan next week because it is certainly a place that is a state that is closely divided, hotly contested, and is going to be, in 2024, once again, one of the focal points of this election. It was a place the Lincoln Project did a lot of targeted work in counties like Oakland, Macomb, and Wayne, to move a very narrow slice of soft Republican and former Republican voters, and we're going to have to be back there again. But we hope that we can do it in a landscape that isn't so unbelievably skewed to try to suppress the turnout of particularly African American voters, which is what these bills are doing. So, Fred, you guys did you guys send over that rapid response ad? I think you did. Let's go ahead and pull that up.
We did.
From the archive. All right, woman, let's do it.
Right now, we are facing an avalanche of voter suppression that we have not seen before.
Georgia's Republican governor is about to sign one of the nation's most restrictive voting laws in the whole country.
Across the internet, growing calls to boycott Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, and Home Depot.
Michigan Senate Republicans have introduced nearly 40 bills addressing elections and voting. They say the moves are to restore faith in the process, but critics are calling it voter suppression.
The GOP in Michigan and across the country is a party that is led by people who don't believe in democracy.
Voting is a lifeblood of democracy. And so what we're saying to companies is all of the words are nice, but we need you to take action.
You know, a lot of Michigan companies in that list, a lot of national firms are in that list. I wonder if companies like Delta and AT&T and Home Depot and others realize that as these fights play out across the country, the pain gets to be renewed every time. The attention gets to come back on them every time. And it's one of the reasons, you know, that at the Lincoln Project, folks, we've been working very hard in the last couple of weeks as we've gotten our stewardship report out, and as we're clearing up some other family business, to put together the effort and the resources to focus on states like Michigan, states like Florida, states like Georgia. And right now, there's a very scattershot approach to it across the country from various groups who want to all be in the fight. But there's one thing I think we have to do. And if you are a Lincoln voter, if you're a supporter, if you're a viewer and you're committed to this, to pushing back against these bills, you know, you've got to be willing to get on the phone and to email and to hit up the social media of these companies and be polite, be persistent. But as Jim Mattis says, have a plan to kill every motherfucker in the room. Because you've got to drive hard and keep going. Fred gets it. You got to keep going over and over and over again. And you've got to share it with your companies. Pay very, very close attention to their social media. They pay super close attention to their branding and the perceptions of their customers. And they know that the flavor out there of these laws is disproportionately going to affect African Americans, disproportionately going to affect minority voters. And so you need to make that point to them and make them own that question. And when they send you a sort of anodyne, boring response, we are carefully monitoring the progress of Senate Bill 666 in the Michigan Senate. We hope that it doesn't open a hellmouth and unleash demons into the world. You know, that sort of, when you see that, you know they're bullshitting. You got to go back at them as hard as you can and say, no, I need to know when you're going to ask your government affairs division to direct your lobbyists to inform the members of this Michigan Senate that they will no longer donate to them if they pass or vote for these bills. And
well, Rick, I tell you, you're right. But can I add something though? That I think he nails it too, Rick. Is everybody desperately wants to go back to normal, right? What we're seeing is they desperately want to go back to the normal operations where we gave to both parties, we greased the wheels in both parties, we had access, we got the jet fuel discount, which is another conversation we can have about what Georgia just tried to do to Delta. That everyone wants to go back to status quo before Trump, if you will, when it was safe to give money to a Republican. And what we've learned in the Lincoln Project clearly is there's no status quo with the GOP anymore. The GOP has decided that their mission right now is they know they can't win on their values and their issues. So their mission is to roll back our voting rights. And so these corporations, how these you've worked with companies before. I think we've talked about the number of companies you served. And, that's all I did for 10 years. I work with nonprofits. I work with corporations, and there are some incredible efforts, but incredible effort by the Home Depot. One of the hardest working organizations supporting veterans in the country is the Home Depot Foundation. And they've done incredible work. And now all that can be undermined when you just try to go to the status quo that I'm just going to give a little money to these guys. Nobody's going to notice. We're still going to have access. And it's not, we just have to make sure they're clear that you're choosing to attack our democracy, because that's what these are about. This is about a time where, you could have done the right thing. And they had a chance. Look at the 60s. I mean, it's a different time than 1960. When John Lewis walked across that bridge, there wasn't social media. There wasn't then called corporate social responsibility. And these companies are going to have to be held accountable, and they have to understand we're not going back to the status quo. We can never let them go back to the status quo and think it's just going to return back to the norm where we just give a little money to these guys, even if they've tried to undermine our democracy.
Yeah. All right, let's grab a couple tweets.
Yeah.
Yeah, tweets. What is the over-under on how many days it takes Gates to resign? Mike Nyland asked this very good question. What do you think, Fred? I have a different.
I don't think he's going to. I don't. Again, in a normal world, yeah, that would be a thing. But I don't know if Matt Gates is that smart. But you've got a better. You live down there.
Question correctly, Fred.
Yeah,
Matt Gates is part of a generation of trolls.
Right.
He is raised that way. He comes from an extraordinarily wealthy and protected family. Matt Gates could get away with maybe literally murder back in the day. His father was one of the most powerful political figures in the state of Florida, a very well-respected man. And the apple has fallen rather far from that tree, but he always took care of Matt and protected him. So I think Matt is also in a world where he is rewarded for shamelessness. He is rewarded for the lie. He is rewarded for putting on the show. And so Matt is right now, paradoxically, he's having fun. He likes this part of the show. He's okay with this. And so, the pain level will rise. He doesn't care about being on a committee. Matt Gates doesn't want to do any work. I mean, so Kevin McCarthy like, well, if it's true, we will remove him from the committee. Oh, really? Yeah. So to give Matt more time to tweet and fuck around and go on Fox, please.
He hasn't passed a single bill. He has never passed a bill in Congress in over 4 years. He's not trying. He's mailing it in. The whole point is to be on TV. I was having a conversation on Twitter with somebody today. They said, I understand. How do you get this way? I said, you have to understand. He has gotten out of everything his whole life because of his name, because of his dad. He is in a position of privilege. Right now, he's angry that we're questioning him, right? The thing that bothers him is that he can't just walk away from this and continue on with his life because he's always gotten away. DUI, no problem. Dad will take care of it. It's just always been his way. And I think the most offensive part of this is that we aren't just leaving him alone. He's shocked that he has to be accountable. And he'll go down thinking this will be fine. He's literally that meme, this is fine. This is fine. Hey bros, look at my phone. Look what I did last night.
Right.
It's bizarre,
So let's go back for 1 second. We had a clip of Joe Biden today. Our tweet has led us to our next topic, but I do want to go back for 1 second to Joe Biden wrapping up, talking about the response of these Republicans on the voting bill, the response to some of the corporations on the bill, including, he was asked today about the All-Star game, whether it should be moved, which I think he should. Honestly, I think that'd be a great idea. I think that'd be a smart idea. So let's go with that. Let's roll that clip, and then we'll get back to we'll do some more tweets.
So, Mr. President, what do you think about the possibility that baseball decides to move their All-Star game out of Atlanta because of this political issue?
I think today's professional athletes are acting incredibly responsibly. I would strongly support them doing that. People look to them. They're leaders. Look at what's happened with the NBA as well. Look at what's happened across the board. The very people who are victimized the most are the people who are the leaders in these various sports. And it's just not right. This is Jim Crow on steroids, what they're doing in Georgia and 40 other states. What it's all about. Imagine passing a law saying you cannot provide water or food for someone standing in a line to vote. You can't do that? Come on.
I mean, it's such a contrast, isn't it, Fred? I mean, of every day saying I was cheated, they lied, that's rigged game. And Biden saying, we can't do this. We've got to open it. We've got to make sure that we on right to vote. It really is a marked contrast, I think, between the two presidents.
And understanding of issues, and empathy and understanding of the layers to it. I think I keep going back to the same thing. It is the pieces of these legislations, all of them across the country, what they're doing, and is so insidious. And the way they're acting indignant when they're caught, like we know we see what you're doing. and they get so angry. Did you see? What was the Speaker of the House of Georgia appeared today with a Pepsi? With a Pepsi, it's like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, the pettiness is off the charts. Oh, I'll show Coke. I'm gonna drink a Pepsi.
I'll show them, a multi-billion-dollar company. But you know what?
You know, just jackassery.
Coke's lobbyists scare the shit out of them every day and say,
God, yes.
They might hurt us on the fuel or on whatever, or Delta, the fuel tax. They might hurt us on this or that issue. Again, if you're a major multinational corporation with billions of dollars, you have power in the equation. If you choose not to exercise it, that's on you.
Right.
That's on you, Delta. It's on you.
And the other piece is, we even talked about employees. You know, employees have incredible power in companies today. You know, the influence of employees on their company's decisions and the effect that has on employees. I mean, how do you look your African American employees in the face and say, "Yeah, we care about you. You're just going to have to wait in line for 12 hours. And by the way, while you're waiting in line 12 hours, we can't give you water right back because that's illegal now." Whereas, I mean, in Georgia, the June primary election, the average wait time in a majority white district was 5 minutes for voting.
Mm-hmm.
In a majority black district, was 51 minutes on average. I mean, it's just, you know, these are all so perniciously insidious and subtle that it's infuriating, and it's all a roadmap. And I think it's true. One will go down, but we just can't count the courts. We have to fight it before we get there. And places like Delta have to answer that question. What is the price? What's the price you're willing to pay to support your employees, support your customers, and do the right thing? And like you said, we're going to be asking that question. We're going to keep on asking that question. Don't do these patriotic ads on the Super Bowl, you know, with Bruce Effin Springsteen or whoever it may be, and say you love America wrapped in a flag, and then sit there while your black employees are disenfranchised from voting.
And don't make an ad that looks like the glorious mosaic, the Benetton ads that all these big companies love to make, and pretend that you believe in equality when you are funding the people who are attempting to remove and restrict the right to vote, especially among African American voters. You can't pretend that way. You know, it is one of the things about this we live in now, this social media panopticon of everything is seen. Well, your brand is seen. If your brand is spending money, want to disenfranchise African American voters, because by the way, I just want to blow this out of the water for the Republican, screaming chorus, the Nelly chorus. It's all about election security. You know, Ryan, our communications director, I once got a contract working for one of these groups that claimed there were all these fraudulent votes out there. And we asked them, we're like, okay, well, can you give us the research to show us how we can make your message work, how we can get your message out there? Oh yeah, we have these studies. Great. Okay, can we have them? Oh, the studies are coming. Yeah, we've definitely got studies and reports, and it's
2 weeks.
Millions. It's 2 weeks. Millions and millions of people are. Oh, cool. Okay, so tell us how we talk about. Well, here's the secret. It was all bullshit. It was all total fucking bullshit. Voter fraud is not a problem at scale. Right. Voter fraud is a problem, a onesie-twosie problem. Okay? It's some dick who goes out and registers, 10 people for absentee ballots and sends them to his P.O. box. It's some asshole in Miami. It's some idiot whose fingerprints are all over it, like the Republican woman in Missouri. Oh wait, it was Republican voter fraud in Missouri. Who
North
adds
Carolina
up,
too.
North Carolina
through
too.
Through entire election out.
Being able to move a whole 30 votes, it's not a scalar problem. So when Donald Trump says there were 3 million illegal votes in California, get the fuck out of here. It's bullshit. It's a bullshit problem. So the election security excuse from people who spent 4 years well acquainted with the taste of Putin's taint, a guy who manipulated our elections like no one in history.
Yeah.
Okay. For those people to say this about election security, you should just detonate it immediately, because it's a lie, an excuse, and a pathetic and truly like Munchausen level of pathology to do that. Let's get another tweet up here. And
yeah, get another. There you go.
What's your birthday? Oh, man.
That is one obscure fucking tweet.
All right. I have a message. Don't drink tea, don't eat sushi, and don't stand near open windows above the second floor.
Yeah, funny thing that.
Because Paul Manafort, Oleg Deripaska is still pissed off at Paul Manafort.
Yeah, he made a lot of evidence.
Oleg is not finished with Paul quite yet. You know, Fred, I have a story to tell. When I sent out my first book, they said, we're going to send out hardcover copies. You know, you need to inscribe them for key people. I sent Paul Manafort in jail a copy of Everything Trump Touches Dies, and it said, "You should flip. You might die in prison."
It's not comfortable.
No,
it's not fun.
No.
You know, yeah. The big lies, all the lies. Oh man.
Wow.
Man, this is
far, and how you plan to beat that with something even better. Thank you. That is Sean D. My biggest accomplishment in life is I've raised two unbelievably awesome kids who kick ass so hard it would shock you. They are brilliant, and they are kind, and they are witty, and they are both like absolute rock stars in everything they do, and that's my biggest accomplishment in life. The other thing that I did was, help beat who, but that was a pretty big deal for me. And they came out okay. Neither one of them is a Matt Gaetz or a Kayleigh McInerney or any of the other Flotsam or Jetsam. And by the way, one of the things, those kids, they went through since 2015. They've gone through abuse and stalking and threats and harassment in person and online. Like, you can't imagine the shit people have done to my kids, and they've come out of it with a great sense of humor. They're both like coated in Kevlar now. Nothing phases them. And I hated that they went through it, but I love that they were so resilient that they turned it into something that, they're very clear on where they are in the world, because they've seen the ugliness of this movement of Trumpism. They've seen what it really is. It's a bunch of fucking anonymous thugs who want to be authoritarian wannabes. And the ones that aren't anonymous, they constrain their ugliness a little more, but not much. And so I'm delighted that although they went through a very difficult thing, that they have become these amazing, amazing people.
Good answer. Yeah, true, right? I tell you how my kids like to read and share. My kids are all adults too, and they like to read and share the ugliest comments to me. It's like a running joke in my family. Like, "Hey, Dad, this guy thinks you look creepy in your profile picture." Like, "Oh shit, I better change my profile picture." It's because I don't see half. Phil, I don't see. It's funny how many people send you the hate. Like, dude, I'm not seeing your shit. You can send me all the hate. I'm not seeing your shit. I'm sorry. You're screaming into the void, dude. I'm not seeing it. And all you're doing is entertaining my 20-year-old kids over their cider. So
I had a reporter recently say to me, a far-right reporter say to me, "Well, someone tweeted it in your timeline." I was like, "Bitch, 1,000 replies a day. What do you think I do?"
Yeah, it's like, thanks. I must have missed it amongst all the answers. I apologize. Yeah.
The tree fell somewhere far away in the forest, and it did not.
Yeah.
It was not. All right, Matt.
The place where I grow my fucks. All right.
Did you see you have another tweet for us?
Oh, what fun.
The voicemail.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Candela, and I live in Iowa, and I wanted to ask the breakdown about Coca-Cola. I know a few weeks ago, or maybe it was last week, sometime you guys were saying that Coca-Cola was one of the companies that was supporting seditionists and voter suppression in Georgia, and I'm one of those folks that will boycott a company if I think that my dollars, even if it's just $1 or a couple of dollars, is going to support a cause I really don't like. And so I'm working on my Coca-Cola addiction. However, I saw Rick Wilson drinking a Diet Coke.
Don't think I'm not able to double beverage.
Yes, were you going to say double fist? You're going to say, don't think I can't double fist, but it's actually a Diet Coke, everyone. It's not Friday.
Does that mean that Coca-Cola has backed off of their sedition support, or does that mean Rick Wilson just has a Coca-Cola addiction that he hasn't or isn't willing to break in response to Coke's bad behavior? Yeah, so if you can answer this, that would be great. Thanks so much for all the good work that you guys do. I'm such a fan. I can't wait to hear the response on this and what other good things you've got cooked up. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye-bye.
End of messages.
He's coming right at you, Rick. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, and thanks to the production team for bringing up the receipts. They have receipts on your ass, Rick.
Receipts on me. They know the
What's
secret
the answer,
of my
Rick? What are you going to do about your Diet Coke addiction?
Well, I'm trying to transition to wine, but it's hard to
Clearly.
start.
I was going to say. No, it's a fine call. You know, it's funny. We talked earlier about this boycott thing, and you know, boycotts are popular. I'm not a giant fan. I mean, again, there's 47 states trying to pull this. You know, it's like we're going to run out of companies to boycott unless they all. I think in a lot of ways, you know, we're going to run around chasing our own tail and boycott. That's just, you know, we talked about it a little bit earlier. It's like, you know, at what point, you know, it's.
Yeah, I believe that the better way, and I'm going to use the word punish, but I'm going to use it advisedly. If you want to punish, if you want to teach these companies a lesson, you need to change their bottom line.
Right.
Now, a boycott is a very interesting way to do that, but it requires enormous organization, persistence, and advertising to your stakeholders to tell them not to buy the product. If you are making the company aware and raising the pain, the noise, the static that they face on this issue, then you're going to have the same market effect without going through the organizational hoops of a straight boycott. I mean, here's the thing. Show me a boycott that worked. They're just not in the modern era, by the way. They may be in the old days, but in the modern era, they're just much more difficult to execute on. They're much more difficult to execute.
We have so much power at our fingertips compared to them, right? I mean, again, we were talking about it earlier. Like
as
1.2 million followers. Yeah, as Americans, we have such an ability. People always years ago when I first got on Twitter, somebody said to me like, "Why do you love Twitter?" I was like, "Because I could talk to so many people. I have the power to have a voice to so many people. I've met so many good people through Twitter. Including someone I'm very, very close to right now who bought the sweater. And I'll tell you, it's Twitter's a very powerful tool. I've met and I've worked with incredible people through Twitter. And so we as people, as individuals, have the power to make our voice heard and make these companies hear our voice. And they don't want that. They don't want their brand heard. One of our colleagues, Reed, was telling us the other day, Coke's a great example. Coke, everyone knows who Coke is. Coke is ubiquitous, and we all know who Coke is. And so, but all their ads aren't really to get you to buy more Coke. Everybody's buying as much Coke as they can. That sounds really bad out loud. But anyway, soda, but that's it. Everybody back to Gates again. Having said that, the point is their brand. They're deathly afraid of their brand being hurt. Coke does not want their brand associated with the rollback of human rights. Coke does not want their brand. They want cute, fuzzy polar bears and Santa arriving Christmas. They don't want African Americans standing in line for hours online, because they can't vote because they chose to keep their mouth shut. They want to protect their brand. We can beat their brand to death. We have that power now. And God knows we're going to do it here at the Lincoln Project. You saw the rapid response ad that Jeff Taylor did today. It's a great ad. It tells it like it is. Like, we're not going to let you off the hook. We see you. And they'd be seen. Why are Delta and Georgia coming around now? Well, because they got seen. They got called out. And now they're changing. So we saw Verizon come out today with a very strong statement. AT&T better step the hell up. There's 24 laws in Texas trying to be fielded right now. Yep. AT&T sits right in the middle of Dallas. Does anybody really like AT&T? Fuck no. Nobody likes AT&T. So Comcast is up in Philadelphia.
Yeah, a lot of these companies that are. Here's the thing. People like Coke. They like it. It's a beloved American brand. AT&T, as Reed says, nobody wakes up in the morning and goes, man, I just love my AT&T cell coverage.
I'm just so glad I have AT&T.
I love Cigna, man. This is the best health insurance.
I want to call Comcast. I want to call Comcast and talk to them about my customer service. You know, because it's the best.
Would you be willing to fill out a question survey where you would plunge your customer service representative into a pit of live sharks? You know? I have a friend who's
power, and we have that power.
Who's no doubt going to ping me in a few minutes.
Yeah, I know. Well, I used to work with all these guys, so I'll probably get a note at some point. But it's okay. That's all right.
All right, let's go to one more tweet, and then we'll move on to Gates.
We're rolling.
Can we remind people that Trump nixed working on infrastructure because he was offended about being investigated? You know, the thing is, Infrastructure Week became one of the greatest cliches and jokes of the Trump administration. And right up until the very last, we were going to have Infrastructure Week. And the only Infrastructure Week we ever got was when they were breaking the infrastructure of the U.S. Capitol. And there's a reason that he could never do it, because an infrastructure deal actually requires people in Washington to start doing serious work.
Right.
It's not a symbol bill. It's an actual bill where you've got to go through and say, okay, people from North Carolina, Republican and Democrat, you know, House and Senate, what do you guys need in this bill? Well, we need this bridge and this highway fix, and this you know, tunnel is about to collapse, and this bridge is built in 1935. You know, those things, they need to sit down and do the work. Yeah, as you may have noticed, Fred, Trump was not a notable fan of doing the work. He didn't care for the details or the little things or the ideas or the concepts. None of these really were things that Trump liked.
No.
You know, you could have done an infrastructure bill that, you know, said, okay, Donald, you get to go cut a yellow ribbon or a red ribbon in front of a construction site every day for the next 4 years. He would have passed that in a hot second. That would have gone through.
Drive a truck. Drive a big truck. And remember, we had a big truck.
Yeah, right. Big truck. But you know, it's certainly one of the things. You know, Trump was a petty and spiteful guy, and so of course he bags on things that he doesn't want to do. He bags on things he doesn't understand. Then he bags on things that where he's vaguely offended by someone, or at least pretends to be.
Wow.
All right.
Well, that's work. I mean, Rick, you said something key before we forget, though. Is like, this is work. You said something very key. Too much of our politics, especially the GOP today, is about performative bullshit. Let's be honest. It's performance. It's getting on Fox. It's getting that. It's that coveted Hannity hit. It's the clicky clicks when they get, you know, like Rand Paul fighting with Dr. Fauci. He's not really trying to govern. He's trying to get a viral video, and he's going to go on Fox and Friends and talk about all lawsuits. None of them want to govern. You know, you see Bovard today tweeting out part of the, all I see is Kristi Noem saying, well, boy, this infrastructure plan shares a lot about housing and pipes. Yeah, no shit. Pipes are collapsing. It's a regular thing. I lived in Fredericksburg, Virginia. Yeah, I lived in Fredericksburg, Virginia. They had, the clay pipes that they built in the 1920s are all collapsing on the streets. Streets are collapsing because we've got infrastructure that's failing. Right. And that's work. That's work. You can't just do performative bullshit with something like infrastructure. It's easy to pass a tax bill, because one of these right-wing think tanks will hand you the bill and you write it. But you said a key, which bridges are falling? Which state really needs the most help? And it's amazing. It's like Madison Cawthorn tweeting out about these various clinics in North Carolina where they're going to get money from the stimulus and he had nothing to do with it. It's like, and I guarantee, I bet my mangled left foot, that shithead didn't know a damn thing was in that bill. He found out later that he was getting money in this district when it was all said and done because he never read the damn thing and none of his staff read the damn thing. And I think that's a big part of what we're seeing. This infrastructure bill, will it pass? You know what? I think it will, because the Republicans just don't do work anymore. A majority of that caucus is more interested in yelling and getting on Fox and getting cool viral tweets than actually governing and rolling their sleeves up and governing.
They love the hamster wheel is what we call it. And you say something or do something really goddamn stupid. People are outraged. You respond and say, "Don't stop trying to cancel me. Stop being outraged by my outrageous outrage." And then you go on Fox, you say, oh, I'm a victim. Poor, pitiful me. I'm so sad. What did I do wrong in this world? How dare those people who have common sense, intellectual probity, and the ability to think, through from A to B, how dare they get angry with me? And then you, rinse and repeat. Oh, and then you send out a fundraising email saying, I was just on Fox to talk about cancel culture.
Cancel culture. Because I got caught saying something stupid. My favorite thing to do now, you're going to love this, is my favorite thing, back to Twitter again, is you get these guys in your I had a congressman drop in my mentions the other day, just randomly. It was crazy because I mentioned him and I knew what he wanted me to do. He wanted me to fight with him. He wanted me to get into a fight with him. And because that would be the next, I don't know, Daily Caller, Breitbart, whatever. Look, Congressman destroys Lincoln Project executive director on Twitter. And know what I do? I'm fucking nice. I'm like really nice. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you replied to me. I'm a huge fan. Hey, what do you think of these voting rights laws? And he literally said, I'm not shitting you. A United States congressman sent me a SpongeBob meme in response. And then I was like, peace out. and I didn't say another damn thing. It's like, good, later, dude. Because that's what they want. They want you to fight with them. Oh yeah. It's awesome. Dan Crenshaw, he's the best. But this is what they want. They want you and I, especially, to fight with them. And then and back to the original point, who the fuck's governing? In all of this, when you've got time to send some rando American, fellow veteran, as a matter of fact, a freaking SpongeBob meme, it's like, shouldn't you be like, I don't know, reading a bill or work in the hallway, trying to actually work for the people? It's just, that's why I think the bill's going to pass. And the bill's going to pass because one party wants to work and one party wants to get viral videos.
He's part of a generation of Republicans who are trolls. They're not really representatives of the American people. They are trolls. And that troll affect, folks, has been represented in Congress for the last couple of years with blistering effectiveness by Matt Gaetz. He has been one of the trolls in chief. He has played the system beautifully. He has fundraised to a degree I can't imagine what he's raised in one of the safest Republican districts in the country over and over again by saying, I'm under attack by Nancy Pelosi. They're coming for me. If you don't save me now, they will destroy me. Well, the trolling of Matt Gaetz has come to a bit of a junction right now. I want to share a couple of Florida stories. I've talked to people both in and out of the legislature right now, a couple of people I haven't talked to for several years because they went with Trump. And
I know some of these stories. I'm just smirking a bit. I'm kind of on the edge of my seat, Rick, because I've heard some of your Florida stories, and we have to. Tara's going to come back, and you have to answer to Tara at some point. But please.
All I can say is that zero people in the full process, and I mean zero people woke up this morning or yesterday and said, Matt Gaetz, underage girls, crazy shit. That could never happen with Matt. Every one of them's like, oh yeah, sure, of course. This is Matt. This is a guy who, again, we talked about this in that tweet earlier, from that tweet answer earlier. He's lived a very privileged life. He's lived a very safe life. So he's had the ability and the money. His father is extraordinarily wealthy, worth $400 million, something like that, to go out and play the role he wanted to play. And so he has had this rising ambition to be a part of this new variation of the Republican Party. This idea that it's all performative, that it's all about owning the libs, that it's all about the blind obedience to Trump. And now it's catching up with the fact that every human being, now, I can't remember the exact way he put it, but Immanuel Kant said we're the best liars to ourselves, or something like that. There's a this idea that Matt had this consequence-free life. I think he internalized it at some point. And so the things that are coming out in this story, and the things that are rumored to come out in this story, and the things that have yet to come out that are factual in this story, you reach a point where you can't just say, oh, the deep state's trying to take me out. while mentioning, oh, by the way, Tucker, you were with you were with me at that dinner, Tucker. That, by the way, Fred,
that was
I'm going to
magical TV.
If just before the show, Tucker Carlson had inserted a chunk of coal up his ass, a diamond would have popped out by the time that segment was over. He was so nervous. I mean, I have never seen a person want to disappear into the void more than Tucker at that moment. I mean, he was just like, he looked like somebody had just told him, you have minutes to live, because Matt Gaetz is about to rat
It was
you
amazing
out.
television. And I'm not a big Fox guy. That was amazing television. It was great television. It was just, it was great television. But you know what's interesting too, is you see the stories today. Look, there's no way the stories today about him showing his phone off to other, on the, treating the freaking floor of the House of United States Congress, the floor of the House of Representatives, allegedly showing nude photos on his phone, this frat boy thing. Look, those stories are not coming from the deep state. Those stories are not coming from Democrats. Those stories are coming from fellow Republicans. And the knives are out.
Yeah. Anybody who questions the validity of that story should get on the old Google machine and Google the phrase Matt Gaetz and the game, which is a well-known
when he was in the House,
capital Tallahassee, where they did scorekeeping of who they were sleeping with. So 1 point for a lobbyist, because lobbyists are easy. 2 points for a staffer, 3 points for another member, 5 points for a married member, and various other scale, bonus points in that. No one here is surprised to hear these stories coming out. No one is shocked by this. And Matt seriously believes he's going to bullshit his way past it, which is crazy. Let's have a little moment of enjoyment with the Tucker clip, shall we?
The New York Times is running a story that I have traveled with a 17-year-old woman, and that is verifiably false. What is happening is an extortion of me and my family involving a former Department of Justice official. I'm not the only person on screen right now who's been falsely accused of a terrible sex act. You were accused of something that you did not do, and so you know what this feels like. I can say that actually you and I went to dinner about 2 years ago. Your wife was there, and I brought a friend of mine. You'll remember her. And she was actually threatened by the FBI, told that if she wouldn't cop to the fact that somehow I was involved in some pay-for-play scheme, that she could face trouble. And so providing for flights and hotel rooms for people that you're dating who are of legal age is not a crime. When people were, talking about a minor and that there were pictures of me with child prostitutes, sex charges against me was really just a way to try to bleed my family out of money and probably smear my name, because I am a well-known, outspoken conservative, and I guess that's out of style in a lot of parts of the country right now.
If you just saw our Matt Gaetz interview, that was one of the weirdest interviews I've ever conducted. I don't think that clarified much.
He's going to change his name and move to Bolivia. Yes, I'm Tucker Carlson. No, scandals?
Honest to God, I'm bruising myself with the face palms just throughout. It's just like, I had to take my glasses off and rub my eyes, because you're like, oh God, it's just amazing. I mean, the running joke is you have the right to remain silent, but he clearly doesn't have the ability to do so. And and he really needs to, just stop talking, but he can't. You can't. That was amazing. So,
and it's one of those rules of crisis PR 101. Occasionally, stop talking. That hole you were in.
I tell you, I've experienced some crises recently. I don't know if you follow the news. And just shut up and take care of your business and get a resolution, and then talk when you've got answers. And that's one of the things. And none of these answers are good. It just makes it worse. There was a great analysis today of the whole thing about check my travel records. I think I said something earlier today to someone. I was like, that's like me telling you to go check the Palm, the reservation system for the Palm restaurant in New York in 2003, and that'll prove that I was in Iraq. There's no such thing. It's just made up.
By the way, that check my travel records.
Right.
Matt is going to insist he's going to hold on to that till the last dog dies. But it's interesting that one of the planes he was commonly using at that period of time, they have their records blocked on FlightAware. They've got their tail number blocked on all the traffic monitoring services. Isn't that a coincidence? I find that fascinating.
That's suspicious. I don't know. If I was a suspicious person, I'd wonder about that.
Yeah, if I were suspicious, if I did have a paranoid turn of mind and a conspiratorial nature. Speaking of conspiracies, I was told in the book of QAnon that Washington was full of sexual predators. I think they may have been right. Anyway, let's go on to another tweet. As our evening wraps up, folks, we'll hit a couple more tweets. Yeah. Marianne tweet, Rick Wilson, wanted to share that I got my first vaccine. I love it. And social distance. But thanks to puts, I feel one step closer to normal. Marianne, I have had my first vaccine, and I am so excited. On the 19th, I get my second. I'm still wearing a mask, still distancing. Folks, it's simple, okay? We are still in the midst of a crisis. This pandemic is not over. We have to manage our expectations for when we can jump up and go out and live the lives that we desperately all want to go live again. We all want to go to restaurants. We all want to go to places. We all want to hang out with our friends. Everyone wants that. But if we don't manage this last step, okay, because this is one of those exercises, you have to complete every step or it doesn't work. Okay, you build the whole house and you don't put the doors on. You don't really have a house. You have a sort of a barn. You've got to do the whole thing. And so we've got to grind this out till we get enough people vaccinated, till we get enough people where we've broken the ability of the virus to get ahead of us. So, Marianne, thank you for sharing that. Everyone, I want to encourage you to get vaccinated. It was a sense of relief when I got the first shot that I can hardly express to you. And, folks, I just can't tell you enough. We are almost there. We've almost got this under control. We have a president who gives a damn, who cares about the science, who's worked the problem, who's managed this in a way that honestly, if COVID had hit during Bill Clinton, we would have handled it kind of like this, kind of like Biden's doing it. If it had hit during George H.W. Bush, would have handled it basically the same way. Hit during George W. Bush, we would have handled it the same way. Hit during Barack Obama, we would have handled it the same way. Hits during Donald Trump, we have 500,000 people dead because of his jackassery. So it's important for us to do our part. It's a patriotic duty now to save your fellow citizens from misery and death by just getting vaccinated and do the things we've got to do until we break the back of this damn virus. We're getting close. All right, let's do another tweet.
Yeah, I mean, Rick, I just real quick, a year ago, in a couple of days, it'll be a year ago that I headed to New York City. A friend of mine called me and said they were setting up a field hospital in New York City, staffed by special operations veterans. And I can't believe it's been a year. It'll be a year and a couple of days that, I called up my girlfriend, Heather, and she's like, I was like, should I do it? She's like, hell yeah. And I got in my car the next day and drove to New York. I just spent 6 weeks in New York City. I've seen COVID up close. I've seen those early days when literally every single day we go into a staff meeting and I get the medical briefing and trying to figure out what this disease is all about. What the hell's COVID? Remember COVID toe?
Yeah.
I saw that in real time and I was not a medical practitioner. I did not treat patients. I had the glorious job of making sure they got paid and they got staffed and they got taken care of when they worked 12-hour shifts. I claim no heroics whatsoever, except knowing heroic people who did the job. But I saw this thing in New York City when it was locked down, the city was shut down. I saw the people in New York every night at 7:00 banging their pots and pans for us, for those incredible healthcare workers. And my God, it's been a year. I remember I had, I'll tell you a quick story. I had these young, so we were using the Columbia University's athletic bubble, which is a positive pressure bubble. Mm-hmm. And so it has an airlock. And so our very first patient that arrived, we put him in there and we airlocked it. And the ambulance driver jumped out and like, oh, I forgot my oxygen tank, and opened the door. And we, an administrator of the hospital, I virtually tackled this woman, like, no, don't open that door. It's hermetically sealed, getting a face full of COVID, right? I'm like, no. And so I'm like, shit, I need guards. And so I recruited the student veterans of Columbia University. And I said, look, I called to the head of their student veterans chapter, said, look, I need I need gate guards at the field hospital now.
Right.
And by that morning, the next morning I had 12 kids, and these are all. So one of my shifts was young Marines, former Marines, and these ambulance pulled up and they were like barking orders at them, back up. I'm like, and I went out. I said, slow down, dude. Look at these guys' faces. They've been going for weeks before we got here. They're exhausted. They're tired. You don't bark at them. We set up a table of snacks and drinks for them. I said, we're going to welcome them. And then I think about now where we're at in this crisis and her wonderful tweet about getting vaccinated. I got one shot. We're a year later. Can you imagine what we've put our healthcare professionals through for a year? And how do we pay them back? The simplest way. Get your damn shot. Stop denying the science. The science is fine. Get your shot. Keep wearing a mask. Respect the rules. And keep going for your fellow citizens. But damn it, if nothing else, I know some really exhausted healthcare professionals who could use a damn break. And they don't need another wave. We just need to respect. Look, wear your mask. It's that simple. I have not been the greatest lockdown guy. I admit it freely after working in the hospital, but I've always worn a mask and I haven't gotten sick, and no one around me's gotten sick, and because we take it seriously. So I'm thrilled to see. I get a thrill every time I see one of those tweets or pictures of someone getting their first shot. It just makes my millennium. My youngest daughter got her second shot. She's the first one in the family to be fully vaccinated. And awesome. I'm just thrilled.
Awesome. All right, folks, let's go to another tweet, and then we're going to call it an evening.
Woo-hoo.
Why are there UFO sightings in Florida?
These are good tweets tonight.
This is a solid
tweet tonight. This is Tara should go away more often. We get juicy. Tara.
Yeah, she's gonna be like, oh. Why are so many UFOs in Florida? Florida, QED. But I mean, per capita, on a pound for pound basis, I'm going to guess more UFO sightings in Nevada. But neither Fred nor I had the clearances to access that kind of information. So we're just
some more swamp gas.
More swamps, more swamp gas, man. I believe that the UFOs are also related to Florida's version of Bigfoot, which is called the skunk ape, and a variety of other Florida mythological and other terrifying Florida creatures. So, all right. With that, folks, thank you so much for joining us tonight on The Breakdown. We miss Tara. We're glad she's had a well-deserved night off. She is the hardest working woman in show business by a long stretch. So a couple things real quick, some housekeeping. Thanks again for joining us. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter, Honestly Abe. It is a free newsletter that gives you an insight on what we're doing. And next week on Tuesday night, we will be talking more about Matt Gaetz and Florida politics with someone who is one of the absolute most tied in, knowledgeable people about Florida political gossip and Florida political life that you will hope to meet. It'll be a great show. Hope you can join us then. You can always look at our schedule by looking at our Twitter feed at LPTV. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, do all the things that one does in modern digital media. And I want to thank, and Fred. Yes, Fred is showing off
the new hats. I want to get a plug in for our gear stores back open.
Yeah, gear.lincolnproject.us. And people were really bugging us about it. We got it up and running again. It is now, we've got a bunch of new gear, a bunch of new stuff, and it's flying out the door. So check that out. You can also support our work at lincolnproject.us/donate. And we hope that you will continue to be involved with the Lincoln Project. And we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday night. And with that, I'm going to leave you with a clip from the podcast.
Trump was bad, but in the end, say what you will about his fascism, but his blatant incompetence and stupidity undermined his efforts. But we do worry about this next generation, the Josh Hawleys. These are people who know how to use our laws to get what they want. What will this fascist look like? Will it be a bumbling fool like Trump? Or will it be that more subtle one who knows the rules? It's easy to forget. Hitler was voted in.
Hi, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of My Pillow. For months, my free speech and yours have been under attack, all for telling the God's honest truth about Hugo Chavez election machines. There isn't a platform I haven't been booted from for this truth. Twitter, booted. Facebook, booted. Club Penguin, you better believe I was booted. I spent a lot of sleepless nights tossing and turning in a My Pillow canyon of my own making in my California king bed. What platform was I gonna get booted from next? America? Not if Mike Lindell had anything to say about it. Unfortunately, I did. That's why one night, drenched in a cold sweat at 5 a.m., I invented my platform. The only safe space on the internet for my ideas. My platform is guaranteed the only social media platform that was sketched out on a napkin on my bedside table and then given to my neighbor's kid to build. On my platform, you're gonna see a lot of ideas and have a lot of experiences that have not been vetted by me or anyone else. So you know they've gotta be good. And the security is out of this world. Just look at these features. Username, passwords, login, log off, and many more. My platform has been described as the My Pillow of platforms. I couldn't have said it better myself, and then I did. But don't take this guy's word for it. Here's some other guys. My platform has been a real lifesaver. If I didn't have this place to get this stuff off my chest, something real bad might happen. Mikey L., Chicago, Illinois. My platform is the only space on the internet where I can get information about the Venezuelan voting machines that changed the winner of the presidential contest, but sneakily left the down ballot races untouched. Michael L., Cheddar Cheese Valley, Wisconsin. I use my platform more often than I talk to my children. Mike L., Meth Factory, Minnesota. You've trusted My Pillow with your head. Now trust my platform with everything else inside it. My platform, coming soon on CD-ROM to your desktop computer.
T-PAC, the party of President Trump.
Well, Donald J. Trump ain't going anywhere.
You know, they kept saying, he's going to start a brand new party. We have the Republican Party. It's going to unite and be stronger than ever before.
President Trump has sent a cease and desist order to the RNC, the NRCC, and the NRSC.
This is what he wrote tonight. Send your donation to Save America PAC at DonaldJTrump.com.
Do you miss me yet? Do you miss me?
Hey guys, hope you're doing well. Just watching my algorithms get crushed. I guess I did something to piss off the Instagram gods, so hopefully you're seeing this stuff anyway. We'll do what we can. Talk to you soon.